Welcome to Jobbed Out, the wrestling editorial that reminds you that even being a guest in somebody else's house is no excuse not to bust out a Macho Man impression.
Something kids suffer from at summer camp. Homesickness. Is homesickness number one? Bullseye!
Best friends.
Wrestling fans don't need a wrestling fan to tell wrestling fans how hardcore wrestling fans are for wrestling. Christ, say that 5 times fast. The point is, nobody is as passionate about this industry as we are. Diehards don't just enjoy the weekly shows, we devote ourselves to catching as much of it as we can. We idolize its performers and we bleed this business. Not many other fandoms out there where entire websites and newsletters dedicate more energy to what goes on when the cameras are off as opposed to when they're on. Of course, non-wrestling fans think we're absolutely insane. The acting is bad, the stunts look awful, the stories often don't make sense, and the performers are less relatable than psychopath Ross Geller.
You threw my sandwich away. My sandwich?
So we're somewhat locked into our little niche. But how does a company raise interest in their show if people who don't understand it don't want to give it a shot? My friends, today we're talking crossovers. At one point in time, these were clever attempts by TV shows and studios to make sure that fans of one program could see what other shows are tied into their universe, cause if you really enjoy one and they endorse another, the least you could do is see if you're missing out, right? So wrestling, with a constant need to bring in the mainstream viewer with the hopes of converting them into new wrestling fans, has occasionally partnered with other intellectual properties in order to cross-promote. Some have been great, some not so much.
Chucky's gonna get even.
Well, that's insanity.
Of course, wrestling fans accept that wrestling is over the top. So the only way other fans could do the same is if their favorite show's over the top too, with its own rabid fans who eat, sleep, and drink their favorite show. But who would fit the bill here?
Oh yeah, you gotta get Swifty.
Bet you didn't see this one coming, did ya? Rick and Morty took the animated world by storm in 2013, a parody of Back to the Future if Doc was a cynical alcoholic and McFly was practically special needs. The show's ability to build character development and large entwined plot arcs while still keeping most of its episodes self-contained not only made fans laugh, cry, and question their own sense of reality, but the franchise even turned its most dedicated fans foam at the mouth rabid just by mentioning a limited edition fast food dipping sauce. Hashtag not sponsored. So being the audience that embraces geek culture to the point where most fan signs at these shows are video game references instead of wrestling references, how could a crossover between real-life cartoon characters in the pro wrestling world and, a cartoon work out? Honestly, not so great. October 30th, 2019, All Elite Wrestling presented a Halloween Eve edition of Wednesday Night Dynamite, and having hyped an intergalactic crossover of the century, fans of both entities were curious how this would come to be. Well, halfway through the show, coming back from a commercial break, we get an unrelated vignette with Tony Schiavone talking to Cody Rhodes, who's about to challenge Chris Jericho for the AEW World title at an upcoming pay-per-view called Full Gear, before cutting to the arena where 3 jobbers are standing in the ring. Those jobbers are QT Marshall, head trainer of AEW's Nightmare Factory, and the Dark Order's Alex Reynolds and John Silver, affectionately nicknamed Johnny Hungy. Admittedly, this trio seems just slapped together and doesn't make much sense, but that's because at this point, Dynamite is a very, very new show, having just launched its first episode earlier in the month. Their opponents, however, beloved indie fan favorites Chuck Taylor, Trent, and Orange Cassidy, the best friends, dressed up as Rick, Morty, and, another Rick. Guess it wouldn't have made sense for one of them to be Jerry. And since Chris Statlander's not in their group yet, no Summer. What a shame. Not only are the best friends dressed up, but they're also introduced to the ring by show co-creator Justin Roiland.
Hey, be careful out there, guys! Don't hit your head or anything!
Morty's right. Guys, be careful. Don't hit your heads, you know?
Though I think the match plans must have changed since he submitted his audio, as Roiland said Cassidy was accompanying the other two to the ring and didn't include his weight in their total.
Accompanied by Orange Cassidy at a combined weight of 418 pounds, Trent and Chuck Taylor.
That suggests this was originally supposed to be a tag match before it was changed to a trio, or six-man tag for the uncultured masses. As the best friends make their way to the ring, we do get cuts of the audience featuring many, many Rick and Morty heads given out for the promotion. Commentator Excalibur has a bit of fun at the expense of his broadcast partner, good old Jim Ross.
JR, I've got something written on a piece of paper here. I would like you to say this, please. Wubba lubba, dub dub.
And as for the match itself, it's fine. It's a filler match. Save for a wardrobe malfunction or two, the match itself is only about 5 minutes and it's an exhibition, so fans at home can become more familiar with Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. The three of them hit their big spots and get an easy 3 count. There's really no further mentions of Rick or Morty or an intergalactic crossover after that, save for a moment later in the show where Santana and Ortiz, 2 members of Chris Jericho's inner circle, would use Rick and Morty masks as disguises and get the jump on the Young Bucks, who were associated with Cody Rhodes. That's it. Underwhelming, I admit, but still an easy paycheck for a brand new show trying to cement its own footing in the cable lineup. AEW Dynamite once again was 1 month old at this point, and not only were fans not yet accustomed to the weekly program, but the program makers themselves were still in search of their identity. Yeah, the attempt here was panned as a complete waste of time and an insult, and of course it was unlikely to make any wrestling fans care about Rick and Morty or make Rick and Morty fans care about wrestling. But hey, they tried. AEW would still make nods to other pop culture IPs, but we haven't had an official crossover since. My opinion, this was a throwaway match on a Halloween episode of a new show. I don't see any reason to take this too seriously. If it had worked and started a buzz, this moment would have been the spark. A pioneer move by some blossoming new geniuses. Of course, it didn't work. But no harm, no foul, it's not like they had main eventers do this. The big reason why 1 million people tune into Dynamite every week is because they're trying to offer something different from the same polished, repetitive programming we've gotten for the last 20 years on another channel. It's better to try and fail than not to try, right? And hey, in all the infinite Rick verses out there, you just know that at least one of them this worked. And a plus for the Jobbed Out fans, now that I've opened the forbidden door, I can now start talking about the other weird one-time crossovers between wrestling and other shows. And believe me, there are some seriously weird ones I cannot wait to talk about.
Pardon me, is anyone sitting here? No.
With that said, this is all just my opinion, and I want to know what you think about AEW's Intergalactic Crossover of the Century. Are you a Rick and Morty fan, and would this have appealed to you at all? Was it worth a gamble at a time when the show was so new, or were they just lucky they didn't scare their own viewers away? And what other shows or movie franchises do you think would make for a more successful crossover with AEW? Let me know what you think in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more, because I want you to be a part of this conversation too. For now though, I better get my shoulders off the mat, so I want to thank you for tuning in to Jobbed Out. I'll catch you next time.